Journeys Ahead, Draft 2, Chapter 5, Spark Out of Water. Written and narrated by T.S. ProArt. Jida, please, just hang on for a second. Void pleaded as the fiery girl with a shiny brace-filled smile warped the two of them into a southern city alleyway. The air was cool, the breeze chilly, the key signs of a fall morning. Void had always enjoyed the fall. The weather, the aesthetic. It was actually his favorite season. Although, he much preferred to see its beauty in the night, or being alone in the woods. A complete contrast to where he was now. Oh, come on, Blue. A good walk will help clear that round head of yours. Believe me, I would know. Jida reasoned as she turned around the corner and entered into a fairly busy city block. Jida, please! Void shouted with pure strain in his soul as he dug his heels into the cement and allowed for his grasped arm to elongate within Jida's mitts. See, doesn't this feel great? Jida asked before looking over her shoulder, only to find that she had been holding Void's forearm that had his rubber hose connected piece extending all the way back into the alley from across the street. Surprised, the guitarist looked at Void, who was cautiously staring back, only being an outlined and illuminated shape with his shaking sapphire eyes. What the... Void... Jida exclaimed with a disappointed flair to her voice, before being dragged back from Void, retracting his limb like a tape measurer. Jida, you heard me. I'm an alien in this place. I'm not allowed here. I'm not allowed anywhere. I appreciate your offer, but I'd much rather do this at night. Void nervously and stressfully whispered through a pair of clenched teeth, as he then snapped his arms away and hugged himself. Look at me. I can't be seen in the open. It'll cause a scene. The cops could get called. The government even. It's too dangerous. Breathing in a sharp breath, Jida too crossed her arms and glanced over her shoulder. Perhaps she had rushed things. Perhaps just dragging this clearly emotionally damaged kid into the light wasn't the best call to make in the moment. However, she recognized his pain, the feeling of being viewed differently, the fear of judgment. Amidst her thoughts, an idea soon popped into Jida's mind, a comparison more accurately to pin it. Flashing her smile once again, Jida warped backwards and wrapped her arm around Void, proceeding to pull him in close by her side. In response to this, the spark's face flushed into a bright shade of blue, while the guitarist knelt and extended her right hand forwards, palm out. Check it, Blue Eyes. I know this is a scary thing for you. But this world, this city, it's full of strange people with strange looks. If I'm being honest, I think you'll blend right in. Jida exclaimed with certainty as she gestured to all kinds of residents walking on by. Here on Earth, we're called humans, but a lot of us don't look the same. And that's okay. For instance, Jida reasoned as she pointed the two adults across the road. They were a pair of anthropomorphic purple-furred wolves, a male and a female, dressed in gardening attires. You see those two? That's Mr. and Mrs. Reyes. They just moved in and opened a neat little flower shop. The guitarist said as she gestured to their appearance. Literal walking and talking wolves, right? And do you see anyone batting an eye? Jida inquired as the array of different kinds of humans traveled along, without so much as a reaction to the wolves. No, Void whispered, as the warmth of Jida's hair provided an easy feeling sensation that entered his soul. It even smelled like oranges, ironically enough. Blue, our world is full of different types of humans. Those two fluff butts over there are just an evolved branch called Lavin Wolves. They're just one of many primal humans that are referred to as the Woodland Humans. They're really cool, trust me. Jida said before pointing her finger towards what looked like an elf dressed in a business suit, alongside a floating cube-headed being attached to a levitating cloak. You see those two? They're what we call enchanted humans. Very strange, right? Jaida asked, as Void continued to glance between several other people. There were more flip sides. Bear people, owl people, elves, and even larger humans had bullhorns atop their head, which were accurately dubbed as bullhorn humans. You see, Blue, you don't have to worry about your looks, because everyone in the world looks completely different to the other. Earth's weird, dude, and that's just the facts. For a good few silent moments, Void just watched these residents go on by. Each had their own unique styles and flares that created quite a special scene of life. Although Void was still uncomfortable with it all, perhaps it wouldn't hurt to try and step into the light. Just this once. Reaching down with her left hand, Jaida carefully interlocked her warmed-up palm with Void's right as a means for comfort. It was as though a little ball of compassion grasped itself between Void's metal digits that continued to ease his strain. It was a nice feeling, one that he had been longing for a good while. Come on, if things go south, I'll take you somewhere safe, okay? Jaida said as her and Void locked eyes. Promise? He asked back with a stern stare. Raising her free hand up, Jaida gently booped her finger upon the spot between Void's eyes and mouth with a little giggle. Boop. Promise. Trotting out from the alley, Jaida, with Void in hand, began to march their way down the busy city sidewalk to wherever their hearts desired. Even though Jaida was doing this to really help ease her new friend's stress, the idea of still searching for the tear had been on both their minds. But if they wanted to find it, they had to start somewhere. Void had to start somewhere. From the second they both entered the fall morning light, Jaida felt Void's grip around her palm strengthen into an even tighter hold. His poor mechanical body was shaking like a puppy in the cold rain. His beautiful irises had shrunk in the small, wiggling spheres, all while he lagged behind in shuffling steps. It's okay. You're doing great, Jaida assured as she held a confident smile on her face. The spark mumbled out in a cold and strained breath as they both began to pass their first sets of pedestrians. Void was mentally prepared for a scream, a curse, a calling to run. But instead, he was met with only passing glances. No one freaked. Nobody lost their minds. It was just a curious gaze, and that was all. What? Void quietly murmured in sudden shock as the people just marched on by. What? Why aren't they screaming? Why aren't they running? Void questioned towards his newfound companion as she tugged him up to be by her side. Do I need to explain it all again? Our world is full of diversity. No one really cares what you look like, Blue. Not everyone's a butthead. Okay, well, maybe the rich on the northern side, but you get the point. Void was at a loss for words. It had been so many years since he had walked openly in a public space. It almost felt wrong. It was so alien to him. It didn't feel right. It had been so long, but felt so good. I don't... What? The blue-eyed spark stuttered as both him and Jaida passed by a father and daughter duo. The two of them each had blonde hair and glasses. The father held a light-toned skin, while the daughter had more of a pinkish hue to hers. For a moment, the girl smiled at Void and waved with a "Good morning," as they both passed on by. With that, Void could only feel one thing in his heart: freedom. You were right. Matira's grace, you were right. The spark started aloud as a small smile at last grew beyond his face. Of course I was. I'm not an idiot. But I am a little dumb. Jada giggled as they both stopped at a red light and let several cars pass on by upon the street. Well, wait, what? Don't say that. I don't think you're dumb. You've clearly proven to me you have a heart and mind. Void responded as the light turned green, giving them the go-ahead to walk. Oh, what I was trying to get at is, well, I've kind of been in your shoes before. I had to learn the whole acceptance thing myself. Granted, I didn't lose my home and junk, but okay, I guess I kind of did. Jada whispered as her smile faded for a moment, until it returned in full. I mean, thank you, Blue. But, hey, you don't mind nicknames, right? It's kind of a thing I do for everyone. Jada inquired with a return to her happy attitude, as the duo now walked side by side upon the next sidewalk. This path resided beside tons of little shops and restaurants, all with their own unique colors and shapes, alongside so much more to see. No, actually, I've never had a nickname before, let alone several. But I kind of like them. To this, Jada nodded with a wink before letting go of Void's hand to skip ahead. Cool beans! She exclaimed before leaping forwards and spinning around a lamp pole post. With a small laugh, Jada, upon a third swing, jumped forwards again, while Void awkwardly followed, feeling akin to how he had been when he was around 10 years old. So, I'm actually quite curious about this whole Omniverse thing. On Earth, it's just sci-fi fiction that's kind of been overused in the media as of late. What's the real thing like? The guitarist questioned as she ran forwards and kicked a stray traveling rubber ball across the street and back to a group of kids who had been playing Foursquare with it. Well, it's quite literally a bunch of different universes and worlds within one giant galaxy-like thing. My people refer to it as a Motolian Enrolocos, which roughly translates to an Omniverse cluster. However, this cluster is just one of an infinite number created by the Big Bang. Void explained as he came across a chalk sketch of hopscotch. Smiling even wider, he went across all the squares, feeling a sense of joy that had been buried for so long. Gotcha. But, are there like different versions of me? Clearly there can't be different versions of you after what you explained. But do I have an infinite number of sisters? Jada questioned as she continued to skip along with his newfound impossible knowledge. Yes, but you'd have to find a place called a mirror space if you wish to encounter them. It's like a pocket dimension between dimensions and realities made of weird magic mirror crystals. You see, the way I jump is between worlds only, purely dimension-based. It's only between the mirror seams through the eye of the soul can one find their other halves. To this, Jada turned on her heel and began to walk backwards, all the while having a rather relaxed face on display for being given such insight. Cool. That totally makes sense. What about you? You're like a cyborg, right? How's all that work? To this new ask, Void got back up beside what he was now starting to feel to be a friend, and tapped his chest with a gentle fist. Well, you see, my head is actually my true body. All organic, brain, eyes, and junk. You know, boring anatomy. Meanwhile, everything else starting at the top of my neck is a synthetic metal body that works identically to a nature living being's form, akin to you humans. Void began with Jada listening in with wide and curious eyes. We Sparks were once technologically advanced beyond most species in the Omniverse. Early on into our existence, our creator gods taught us the ways of evolution, which led to our kind developing these mechanical bodies to adapt to. Void nervously explained, with both his hands open at his sides. At infancy, sparks upon birth are safely attached to a little adaptable body that grows with the user over their lifespan. Outside of our arms and legs, our torsos look rather identical to your human body types, both male and female anatomy respectively. Voight continued as he slapped his chest with a loud clang. This exterior you see is just armor on my chest and forearms. Underneath is my regular body. Voight then revealed, leaving Jida to raise an eyebrow. That's really cool. So it's like an actual body, but not? She asked. Pretty much. But since I've adapted to it, I can feel, eat, and even get injured with it. So, you know what, here, how about you just take a look? Clicking the top of his chest, Voight suddenly popped the locks open to his front armor, causing it to split apart like a puzzle piece. As the front halves swayed to the side, it revealed a humanoid, metallic chest and abdomen, which was to Jida's shock and amazement, ripped. Voight had a properly set chest and an entire six-pack, causing Jida's irises to widen and her hair to start steaming. What? Holy crap! She exclaimed, as Voight with a chuckle closed his armor back up. Pretty cool, right? He asked, oblivious to the small shock he had given to Jida, who just walked in disbelief. Beezus, dude! How active have you been since you started this whole thing? The guitarist asked, causing Voight's smile to fade. Constant. Are you okay? It looks like you just witnessed a car crash. Voight asked his new friend, oblivious to his on-par athlete physique he had gained while hunting glitches for 5 straight years. Yeah, I'm just, yeah. Jida replied as she tried to shake the image from her mind, while in the back, she had been screaming in a flustered and bashful wail. Hey, look at that. We're outside my, Knox, good friend's business. Jida stated with a change in conversation, while turning to face one of the small establishments on the road. Turning as well, Voight took note of what appeared to have been a small bakery, one by the name of Sarvey Sweets, which looked rather new compared to the other buildings. Had a tinted front yellow window, a green shaded top tarp, and a little logo featuring an owl with 2 donuts for eyes. It even appeared to have another story above it. Wanna grab a smoothie? Sarv and Tucker always know how to hook me up. Jida asked while approaching the door. Sarv and Tucker? Sure. It's been a while since I've had anything besides street water. Voight agreed as the two of them walked inside, side by side. With an audible chime, a small bell above the bakery door rang to life, as the 2 kids settled themselves inside. The establishment was tiny, nothing extremely massive or over the top as one should expect. The walls were tame nature green shades, matching with the floor's redwood layering. Connected to the floor had been 5 table booths mounted down by massive screws. There were 2 by the window, while the other 3 sat along the leftmost wall, being large with nice yellow seats. Before their eyes rested a large glass container, which was stuffed to the brim with all kinds of breads, cookies, donuts, and cakes. What a smell, Voight thought. It was unlike anything he's ever taken in before. It was like a cozy blanket wrapping around his brain and senses, which caused his stomach to growl once more, even after having breakfast. Sarv, Tucker! It's your favorite little angel requesting something to please my sweet tooth! Jida called with a follow-up giggle, while Voight just glanced his eyes around the bakery's lovely interior. There were all kinds of photos on the wall, some of parties, vacation, to even what appeared to have been the bakery's opening day. Within these frames of savored life were 2 constant figures. There was a large owl woman, a woodland human with light brown feathers, a big wingspan, sharp brown beak, and a set of bright yellow eyes. Her coat even seemed to have a little spot pattern upon it, which Voight found to be rather interesting. Beside her was a large, beefy man with a big old gut. A bullhorn human with green skin, squinted eyes, brown combed-back hair, and a bushy matching beard. Sarv and Tucker, Void realized, as he gazed upon what seemed to have been a wedding photo, besides what was also a military photo, causing the Spark to raise a curious eyebrow. Hello, little Woods. How you doing this fine evening? Rolling his head back around to this new voice, Void watched in shock as this very same owl marched into the main dining room area. She was massive, a whopping 7 feet off the ground, which startled Void for a moment. Round her neck, she wore a green apron with the same logo as set outside. But this wasn't the key trait Void's eyes locked upon. It was rather on her right leg. Sarv had, to Void's shock, a prosthetic replacement. Her talons were gone, presumably taken by whatever war she fought within, given by the photo on the wall.
Hey, little pyromaniac, what brings you here on this fine Friday morning?
The voice of Tucker exclaimed as he too walked in, wearing the same apron type as his wife. Hi, just here taking my new friend for a stroll. His name's Void and he's new in town. Think you guys can whip up some of your world-famous smoothies? I'll put it on my cousin's tab. Jada asked as she leaned over to Void and wrapped her right arm around him, seeing the polemen so close that their cheeks were smudging against the other. Aw, how lovely. Of course. Sarv said with a smile and nod as she turned to a pair of mixers in the back half of the bakery's main room.
Welcome to Aurora, kiddo. My name's Tucker and this is my wife, Sarv. Where'd you move from?
Tucker asked as he leaned over the main counter with a big smile. For a short moment, Void held his tongue and didn't know what to say. He wasn't sure on how to respond. What could he say or do that didn't sound insane to these people? How's he going to explain that? Oh, he's from a different dimension. Jada exclaimed while Void was in mid-thought, getting his eyes to shrink and worry. Me and him kicked some serious butt last night. But he's a little shy, so I'm kind of speaking for him. Hope you guys understand. To this, Tucker stared blankly for a moment, before shrugging his shoulders and standing back upright with that same smile returning.
Well, you can teleport and shoot fire. Can't say that's all too surprising.
He said, the Void's sudden surprise, as he glanced from Jada and then back to the Bullhorn man. Oh, another dimension. Ha! Knowing you, Jada, that oddly checks out. Sarv added as she began to mix the basic ingredients for a smoothie. What flavors do you two want? The owl then asked, as Void just continued to stare in awe. 2 raspberry blueberry deluxes, please. Medium size. The guitarist said, resulting in Sarv to give a large thumbs up. What? They're just chill with that. Void asked as Jada took him by the hand, walked over, and got them both situated by a window seat. Void first on the interior, and Jada on the exterior, shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, Cot, Sarv, and Tucker have kind of been roped into my crazy antics for the last 2 years. They're the only ones who know I have flame powers. And plus they're soldiers, they've seen crazier. Jada revealed as Sarv approached and placed the drinks down upon the booth table. 2 frosty, red and blue smoothies. While Void continued to think, what was crazier than hearing about someone being from a different dimension? Enjoy, kiddos. And Void, welcome to Aurora. The large owl sat with a smile and rubbed the Spark's head, before her and Tucker returned back to the building's kitchen area.
We'll see you at Knox this Sunday. Little group get together, remember?
Tucker then called, getting Jada to roll her eyes with a grin. Oh, how could I forget? I'm beating you at Genopoly this time! I mean that! She called, while Void was left with a few questions. Why do they only know? The Spark asked as he took a little sip from his drink, finding it to taste absolutely spectacular. Because they're the only ones I trust. I'm sort of a vigilante around these parts. Robin Hood-like gal, you know? Helping the poor, trying to do good. It's kind of my thing. Jada explained as she proceeded to take a long sip from her drink. And so because of that, I may or may not be wanted in some spots around the city. So I go around my hood to help people whenever I can. Nodding his head, Void looked down at his smoothie, only to see Jada's orange hair reflecting off its cup. In response, the spark bit the inside of his cheek as some puzzle pieces began to click in his brain. So that's why you were dressed in a towel trying to beat me up. Okay. He realized before looking at the guitarist who had been smiling down at him. I even coined my own term for teleportation. I call it warping. Jada exclaimed with a giddy attitude as Void continued to drink his smoothie. Warping? He asked with a curious expression. Yeah, 'cause I warp, you know? Say with me, it's fun. Warping. Jada asked, getting Void to crack a small smile to the ridiculous tone of her voice. Warping. He replied to Jada's refusal. No, like warping. She repeated, causing Void to follow suit. Warping. To this, Jada flashed her brace-filled smile and nodded with a very happy attitude. There you go! For a long and tender moment, Void and Jada just looked into one another's eyes. It had been so long since either of them had a friend, per se. Especially one at their age. It was nice, they thought. Void himself was still trying to click with the return to form from years past, but he couldn't deny that he, for the first time in a long time, felt happy. But he had to ask one more thing that had been on his mind since the previous night. Jada, I'm rather curious. Your powers. How did you manage to get the ability of cosmic fire? The spark inquired with a new word that caused Jada's smiling face to drop into an inquisitive stare. Cosmic what? She asked back with a tilt in her head. Your flames. Your warping. It's called cosmic fire. Void reinstated as he gently reached out and held Jada's hair within his right hand. It appears to be infused with you. Wait, you don't even know what this is, do you? Void suddenly realized, forgetting that Jada wasn't a universal knowledge holder such as himself. She actually looked rather stunned and taken aback by what Void was saying. No, do you actually know what's wrong with me? Do you actually know what my powers are? Jada stuttered as she herself began to stroke her hair with thought. Well, when I was in school, I only learned about it from my science class. Cosmic fire, it's essentially the burning flames that come from the building blocks in the Omniverse. It's the father element to all the other flames within residing realities. It's the most powerful flare of them all, and inherits elements of space and time itself. Hence why you have constellations and, warping. Void explained with a point towards Jada's arms, where faint burn marks of her constellation patterns resided. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of like omniversal magic that's rather rare to come by. There's actually an old legend about a fire serpent who surfed the stars with its power. But other than that, it's sort of a rarity. That's why I'm curious. How did you gain such a power? Void again asked as he smiled up at Jada, who was now blank-faced. The once expressive and gleeful stare upon Jada had now faded into an empty gaze that seemed to be recalling upon something from the past. Jada, although looking at Void, seemed to be staring through him. It was as if her mind had left the body, leaving only a blank slate in its place. Hey, Jada? Void asked with a nervous tone. Are you okay? Void continued the question as he gently shook his friend, which snapped her back to the regular world. I am... Pausing her words, Jida looked down with deep thought and tapped the side of her right leg. This was off-putting for the spark. Although he only knew her for less than a day, Void was quickly able to pick up the change in attitude that really seemed uneasy for her own sake. Would you be okay if we talked about this somewhere more private? Jida inquired as she held her drink close to her stomach. Looking from her and then back out to the busy street, Void set his sights back at the guitarist and shrugged. Yeah, sure. He agreed, before feeling Jida warp him and herself out of the bakery.